Is the great John Hastings, one of our dear friends on the program who we haven't been in touch with for quite some time throughout this global pandemic. It's a shame, but he's back with us on a Friday morning. Hello, Duke.
Good morning, gents. How are we?
Mate, we are well. We've missed you. What's been happening?
Oh, there's plenty been going on. Just a pandemic. A bit of this, bit of that. If you know any Pilates trainers or any chefs or staff that want to actually work, then send them my way. That'd be great.
Oh, it's a problem. The small business owners out there having a problem with staff, Duke. You're feeling this too, are you?
Yeah, no, it's pretty widespread down here, especially on the peninsula. But yeah, it's all good. Onwards and upwards.
Hey, Duke, are your abs just chiseled now? Absolutely chiseled.
You know what, Ramo? I'd love to say they are, but I had a good COVID. Really good COVID.
What was your go-to?
Oh, just anything that was in the wine fridge. It was great. I had a lot of food. Didn't train for a while. Just had a bit of a break, but back into it now. Actually, the class is going on this morning. It's very good.
Check into Strong Mornington too and go and see the big Duke and work out these unbelievable Pilates reformer beds with the rowing machine. It's quite something, the Strong system down there. So go and see the big Duke. Give him a high five for us. And I'm sure you're still high-fiving anyone, Duke, after the performance of the Aussies overnight. If you've just woken up out there in RSN land, Australia are through to the T20 World Cup final after they defeated Pakistan with 1 over to spare, chasing down 176. Matthew Wade, your mate, Duke, was the hero.
It was unbelievable, wasn't it? I mean, you know, the thing I've liked right throughout this whole tournament is they've gone back to what they know. They've gone back with the 3 best or the 4 best bowlers in Australia. Pardon me, Nathan Lyon. Obviously, he's into that mix when you come into the red ball. But the experience that they have with that white cricket ball now in Cummins, Stark, and Hazelwood is what we've sort of been crying out for a long time. They've gone back to it. You pick your 3 best bowlers. It's not a complicated thing to come in and hit the wicket. Obviously, being over in Dubai, you know, they've added a few strings to their bow. No doubt about that in terms of, you know, different areas in their slow balls. A bouncer is still a good ball. A good length ball is still a good ball in T20 cricket. So I'm so happy that they went back to that recipe because I think it's really held them in good stead. The bowls have been absolutely phenomenal right throughout this T20 World Cup. So I'm really glad they've done that. And, you know, I think some of the players that have stood up, there was question marks about David Warner and Finch. They've had a really good partnership at the top. And then, as you said, my little mate, Matty Wade, when I was watching it this morning, sitting behind the desk at 4 a.m., I saw fine leg just come up and I thought, oh, no, what have they done? He's definitely going to ramp it here. I played with that bloke for so long. I could just read his mind. So, yeah, look, it was pretty special. But I really like what they've been able to build, and I think they're red-hot favourites to go in and win their first one.
So, Duke, Whitey's tried to retire, sack Matty Wade for years now.
Everyone has Rama. That's the thing.
But does he listen to that? Does that drive him?
Absolutely, yeah. As I've always said it all the way along. He's probably my top 3 or 4 guys that I'd want in my side, primarily because of his character on the field and in the change room is just he's a bulldog. But the other thing is his ability to be able to win. You know, he's played in a lot of very successful teams. You know, sometimes he might have made a mistake here or there, but you know his heart's always in the right place, and he absolutely bleeds for his teammates. But I think now that he's got on in age, and he's actually a much better player than he was, say, even 3 or 4 years ago. I think he's in a really good place. You know, he's doing some great things down in Tassie, and I think he's happy back there. So that translates to good performances on the cricket field. So I'm really pleased for him, and I'm really pleased that he's put the doubters back in their box, at least for a little bit anyway.
You mentioned the fast bowlers and going back to what we know, but Adam Zampa's been our best bowler through this tournament. Yep. What makes him so tricky? What makes him so tricky to get away?
I think his stock ball has just absolutely been nailed down pat. His ability to be able to repeat that stock ball. But he's also, I think, playing predominantly T20 around the world now. He's played against all these players for so long. And he knows when to mix his pace up. He knows what fields now that best suits his attack. He knows all the grounds around the world. So I think just experience, I think, as I said, that ability to be more consistent with his stock ball, and also, his ability to be able to mix up his pace when he needs to, I think is the key thing, and he backs himself a lot more. The relationship between him and Marcus Stoinis is pretty out there. It's pretty special. They do a lot of strange things, but but I think that in itself, his ability to be able to accept who he is and then go out and translate in performances on the field is big. So you can't underestimate that sort of thing.
Hey, Sto, I want to ask you about that last over that Shaheen Afridi bowled and the predictability of it. And you talked before about the fine leg coming up and all these sorts of things and the balls that he chose to bowl. Are we getting to a bit of a tipping point with T20 cricket that there's such a preoccupation with what everyone does well and what they don't do well that the batsmen actually know what's going to be bowled because they're almost playing to a script?
Yeah, I think there's a huge element of that, Whitey. I think, in T20, more and more now you're watching tapes of guys and what they do. And I think in that situation with Shaheen, I've played at Dubai Stadium, and it's really, really tough to hold the ball late on in the innings. So even when Australia, won the toss and elected to field, I thought, all right, that's the first box we've got to tick. But, going back to what you were saying, I think that predictability, if I was Shaheen Afridi then, I would have made Matty Wade try and hit it back over my head.
Yep.
I think that's the percentage ball in that situation. With a wet ball, would have gone cross-seam into the wicket, try and make him hit it off the stumps, because you've got more of a chance to try and, get that wicket. If he misses it, you're going to hit the stumps. So I would have done that. But, yeah, I think going back to it, the predictability and things like that, it's really tough nowadays in T20 cricket. You can get exposed so easily, I think. So it's a tough one, but, that situation, I think I would have tried to either have taken the pace off onto the stumps or at least try and get him to hit me back over my head or square and take a bit of a risk. That shot from Matt Wade is just his bread and butter.
Yeah.
Anyone that's ever seen him or anyone that's ever played cricket with him knows that he loves to lap. So that was a strange decision. But heat of the moment, World Cup semi-final, you'd love your time again, I'm sure.
Yes, exactly right. And he loves the pace. So we've talked about Matthew Wade loving to prove people wrong. Someone else that loves to prove people wrong is Davey Warner, and I know you've spent so many years with him. He's come good at the right time. He had he didn't dominate necessarily last night, but he still had a really important part to play in it all. He was very good the other night as well in a must-win game. Look, have you seen anything different from him, or is it just that he's just rising to the occasion?
Well, I think there's a little tweak. He seems to have opened up a little bit from me in his stance, but having played a lot with him, so that's maybe freed him up a little bit to try and open up that leg side again for him, because I think he was a little bit closed off. But, in terms of proving people wrong, he's definitely one of those guys, that you want in your side, a la Matty Wade. He's just a bulldog,
yep.
And they're the guys that you want to play with. But in terms of proving people wrong, I don't think there's two blokes in world cricket that'd enjoy the moment more than those two in Matt Wade and Dave Warner when they go out there and score runs for Australia and just in the back of their mind just prove those doubters wrong. But you can't really doubt champions, and his record speaks for itself. And the amount of work that he puts in, you might see stuff on Instagram and all that sort of stuff. He enjoys his life, but he's one of the last blokes to leave training. And he'll go outside the box and try and get extra coaching from other places. He does all the extra stuff in sprinting and all that sort of stuff. He does that, regularly. So he goes the extra yard, and he doesn't mind when people sort of stick the knife in and have a crack at him, that's for sure.
Gautam Gambhir, former Indian Test cricketer, in part of the analysis and the coverage of the T20 World Cup for Star Sports, has had a bit of a crack at him because I wasn't aware of this until the last little while. There's an SMS about it as well, where Hafiz was bowling and the ball slipped out of his hand. It might have been a double bouncer, and Warner's whacked it for six. Now, Gautam has said, Ricky Ponting, Shane Warne talk a lot about sportsmanship. Let's see what they have to say about David Warner. He shouldn't have done that. He stole 6 runs. I want to see if they tweet about that. Is he within his rights to do that, Duke, or is that non-kosher?
Gautam, come on. what are you doing bowling a double bouncer in a World Cup
Correct.
semi-final anyway? It's well within the laws of the game. I think the great Bradley Hodge tried to bring in the double bouncer in Big Bash a few years ago, if anyone remembers that. That was an absolute classic. He goes, it's the hardest ball in the world to hit. But clearly not. No, I don't think Davey's got anything to worry about that. I mean...
It was on the pitch.
Well, yeah, it was pretty much off the pitch. If it had flown out of his hand and, rolled out to the square leg umpire, then it might have been a different story. But, I think he's well within his rights to whack it over the fence, and lucky he did.
Alan Border did that in a game in the West Indies. Is it the West Indies or England where he went out to mid-wicket and hit the ball?
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, he did.
The old school.
So, Duke, we turn our attention now to New Zealand. So, if you look at them as a team, World Cup final for 50 overs, win the Test Championship, now in a T20 World Cup final. They're an unbelievable team. One, what makes them so good, but then two, how do we beat them?
I think you hit the nail on the head. They're an unbelievable team. I don't think they rely on any 1, 2 or 3 players. They're really solid across the board, but I still think they're lingering on from the Baz McCullum legacy. What he did for New Zealand cricket was something pretty special. He instilled that belief in them and that hungriness and the drive and the hard-working nature that they have now. So I think that's still lingering on, and he passed that down to Kane Williamson. He's a world-class player. And then they've unearthed some talent as well. Where did Daryl Mitchell come from? What he did the other night was ridiculous. And Jimmy Neesham's improved. He's always been touted as, being a really good all-round cricketer, but I think he's got his game to a point now where he's right up there when you're having a conversation about T20 players. So, and the old pros in Southee and Bolt just keep on getting it done. So I think they are a really good team. They back themselves and each other, and I think that holds them in really good stead. They've played some really good cricket over the last few years, so that just carries on from tournament to tournament. So I think it'll be a cracking game. A lot will come down to that toss, but I think it'll be an absolute ripper. I'm looking forward to it.
1 a.m. Monday morning, the World Cup final between New Zealand and Australia. Great to have the insight and the conversation with the great John Hastings with us on the Breakfast Club again after a long time. Keep that wine fridge chilled, Duke. I'm coming down.
Oh, I've got to restock it. So,
Well, you're not.
Dan Murphy's.
You're not going down for the Pilates machines just to drink wine.
No, seriously, what would you be doing?
Pilates.
Straight to the wine fridge. Thank you, Duke. Nice to chat, mate. Be good.
You too, boys. Cheers.
John Hastings.